Unfolding Architecture by Emily Speed and Elude by Jule Claudia Mahn immerse us in rich fictional worlds. Partially inspired by a family member's dementia, both books tell stories of changed environments and disorientation. Let's dive into these unfamiliar spaces, both physical and psychological. Emily Speed is an artist based in England. Alongside her book works, her performances and installations regularly incorporate architectural, sculptural, and film elements. Her research and artwork examine the connection between people and buildings, with an emphasis on the body's relationship to architecture. Created at Women's Studio Workshop in 2007, Unfolding Architecture is one of her early book works examining shelter and psychological space. Housed in a wooden box, it is surprisingly light in my hands. The walls unexpectedly fall away. Across the front and back of the accordion, we follow a character named Gordon as he experiences the city around him changing. It begins slowly, the corner of a building flapping in the wind, and a wall that has come quietly free and spread itself on the ground. What began with uncertainty now seems clear to Gordon. The buildings are unfolding. One of my favorite passages early on characterizes his attempts to make sense of the undoing. He thought of origami, the folding and unfolding required to create structure and volume from a single sheet of paper. He knew that it was sometimes necessary to make folds that would then be unfolded to facilitate the final shape in origami. He tried to conceive of some way the unfolding could lead to refolding, reform, but he knew that it could not. Speed explained to me that when she wrote this text, her father was living with advanced vascular dementia. Throughout this period, she was working through the collapse of his identity and her own grief. Although this experience is never directly called to in the text, it is a deeply moving undercurrent throughout Gordon's story. Unfolding Architecture was written as an appendix to her master's thesis, which explored internal or psychological space as a place that we build and adapt for ourselves. At the time, she was looking at lots of architecture and reading literature that bent space from authors like Italo Calvino, Marcel Aimé, and Mark Z. Danielewski. Her research and influences are keenly felt. Throughout the narrative of Unfolding Architecture, Speed's details and imagery create an immersive, believable world. I found myself thinking, of course that's how a cathedral or staircase would unfold. Where the first side of the accordion introduces the unfolding and undoing of the city, the second side brings us past the disturbance and despair. Much like after real-world disasters, the people of this fictional city begin rebuilding with what is available around them. Gordon, too, realizes that all he can do is contribute to the remaking, opening up his perspective to see possibility, even in a simple material like a rolled-up piece of newspaper. Jule Claudia Mahn is an artist and self-publisher in Leipzig, Germany, where she produces limited edition artist books and prints. She gathers this work under the series name Verwandte Objekte, which means related objects in German. These elegant artists' books connect histories of people and places, origins and change, ruptures and cohesion. In her book Elude, Mahn asks, how might it feel when the connection to thoughts and memories dissolves? She gently brings us into this idea, passing us from knowing to new. Next, we're confronted by a dense barrier. Now the cut in the paper mercilessly slices through the center of everything. To read the story, we must turn the pages in parallel. It's not so difficult to read across the break in the page. In a testament to Mahn's deliberate craft and attention to detail, words are broken up, but no individual letter is sliced through. They all fall neatly on one side of the cut or the other. The story follows a character named Mona as she wakes from a dream of a dog being swept out to sea. She gets up, dresses, and goes about what seems like an ordinary day. But I am disoriented throughout reading this lengthy, unbroken text. The narrative brings us close into Mona's mind as her dementia weaves in and out of memory and current reality, with few guideposts along the way. Mona's thoughts come into view and then quickly dissipate. Mahn deftly regrounds Mona, and us, through her interaction with physical objects, like family photos or the cinnamon rolls a woman brings to her kitchen. These breadcrumbs, sprinkled throughout the narrative, are just enough to help us figure out what is real and what is in Mona's memory. Mona doesn't seem particularly confused, though. Instead, she is accepting of this gap between what is and what she knows. At the end of this text, Mona realizes she is meant to meet someone soon. She gets ready and leaves her home. Now we are in a space of images. These pages are no longer cut down the middle. Instead, each comes from either the left or right sides. These overlapping pages move us forward through space, but also this way and that. We pass through houses, plants, and other textures that suggest the outside environment where Mona lives. The irregular widths and translucent paper allow us to see multiple images at once, but often through a haze. Hints of a pool remind me of a particularly impactful scene I read earlier in the story. Mona keeps a notebook. The entries in this notebook are in her handwriting and contain notes added and crossed out. Damnatio memoriae is written in the book. This Latin phrase, meaning condemnation of memory, indicates someone being excluded from official accounts. There is intention in the exclusion. After Mona remembers the accidental drowning of her dog in the pool, she crosses out the dog's name, completely obscuring it. The scene evokes pain, a recognition of her memory loss or dementia, and a desire for control. Continuing on the journey through the images, I wonder where Mona is. Is she actually walking outside, or is this in her mind too? I also think about the physical book that I'm reading. How will I put these pages back in the correct order? Is there even a correct order? I am disoriented and anxious, imagining the fog and confusion of living with memory loss and dementia. The end of the book has the only uncut page. The text is straightforward, an easier narrative to follow. Mona is outside looking for her car. When she finds it, she is frustrated and disoriented. Almost no time has passed, and she is parked in her neighborhood, but she doesn't quite know how she got there. Mona has lost the beginning. As I put the book away, I revisit the debossed title and energetic lines foil-stamped on the front of the case. I think of Mona, crossing out entries in her book. This elegant detail reinforces again the impact, challenge, and frustration of handling what Mona knew and what she no longer knows. Unfolding architecture and elude have roots in personal experiences with a family member's dementia. Through careful writing and deliberate bindings, we experience and empathize with Gordon and Mona as they navigate changed and unfamiliar environments and resilient psychological spaces.